Yes, my hair is a mess, and I have no idea what this makeup is. I thought supervillain tag, I might as well do something. Hey everyone! Today I am doing the Supervillains book tag. I was tagged to do this by my friend Steph over from Steph OK, who is linked in the card and in the description. The original tag was done by this person. They took their video down though, I think. Basically, Steph tagged me ages ago, and when Steph first tagged me, I went into the video description to look for the questions, and since they weren't there, I clicked the link to the original tag video, which is this one, and there the questions were in the description box, and I took a screenshot of it. And I'm hella glad I did, because the video's gone. So let's jump right into it. Question number 1 is a villain that makes sense, and for that I will go with 3 Bags Full by Leone Swann, which is the first sheep detective story in the duology. It's kind of hard to argue why it makes sense without spoiling who did it. So let's just say that the person who committed the murder had a very good reason to do so. Even though they were selfish reasons, I can very much understand why they did what they did. There. That's good. Question number 2 is a villain that is misunderstood, and for that I am going to go with Dustfinger from the Inkheart book. Hear me out. If you have read the Inkheart trilogy, you know that Dustfinger isn't the main villain, but he is pretty much, very much an antagonist. Obviously the main villain in the Inkheart book is Capricorn, but Dustfinger is the one who goes out, steals the book, and kidnaps the people he needs, and he is very, very selfish in his motivation. He is doing all these things just because he wants to get back into his story. I think Dustfinger isn't necessarily misunderstood by the readers, but very much by the other characters in the story. He is very much idolized by Farid, even though he's really not someone you should take as a role model. He is very much disliked by Mo because of his selfish motives, and he's obviously a constant reminder for Mo that he lost his wife. If you have never heard of the Inkheart books, the whole setup of it is that there's this man called Mo who, when he reads out loud, he reads things out of the books, as in he can read the Little Red Riding Hood and then suddenly the Red Riding Hood from Little Red Riding Hood will be there on the desk. Obviously there's more happening, and I love these books, they're amazing. I think Dustfinger is very much misunderstood, at least in the beginning, but he is very much he's a pushover. He goes the way of least resistance. If he thinks that what he wants he's gonna get from the villain, he's gonna be on the side of the villain, and vice versa. But these kinds of people, I think, are very... When you read those kinds of stories, it's just like Peter Pettigrew. When you read those kinds of stories, you'd like to think that, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I would have rather died for the Potters than betray them. But chances are, not everyone would. Not every person who thinks that they would stand up to the bad guy would do that. Chances are, a lot of us would go the way of the least resistance. And that's what Dustfinger does, and that's why I love him, because he's very realistic. Question 3 is a villain that you love more than the protagonist, and for me, that would be The Other Mother from Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Hear me out. There is a very good reason why I'm picking this book. While, yes, I do agree that The Other Mother and the button eyes are terrifying, I do love this story and the whole concept behind it, because it kind of gives this whole vibe of careful what you wish for, but in a child kind of way, and I love that about it. And also, I freaking love The Other Mother. Not that I would want an other mother, but I love that she's so determined to get what she wants, and at least in the beginning, she's very, very kind about it. She doesn't just go into the real world and snatch Coraline and take her with her and just sew on those button eyes and done with it. She doesn't just do that. she wants Coraline to want to be with her because she wants her to love her. Only when Coraline will not stop resisting the other mother does she become violent, I guess. She wants Coraline to be happy with her. She just has a very twisted way of doing that, I guess. Question number 4 is a villain that you want to succeed. And for that, I am going to go with All That She Can See by Carrie Fletcher. Hear me out. I don't want things to end badly for the protagonists of this book, but if the villains did succeed, then the likelihood would be bigger if there to be a sequel. Because while I do love that I have a couple more standalones on my shelf now than I used to, I still would love to have a sequel to this story and know what happens next. However, not the way it is now, because there isn't really a need to a sequel other than maybe a short novella like she did with On the Other Side and A Winter Snow. But I would love that if this story had ended badly for there to be a second book, because I love the whole idea of it and how much of a metaphor for a mental illness it can be. And I just really enjoyed that. Question number 5 is your favorite female villains. And for me, that'll be number 1, Mother Gothel and the evil queen from Snow White from Grimm's Fairytales. I don't know why, I just really like those. They're some of my favorite fairy tales that I grew up with. I realize that I really don't have that many books that have good versus bad in a way that it's 1v1. I have lots of books where the bad guys are literally the whole of the government. Hashtag dystopia. Especially when you watch Once Upon a Time and you get all the Disney canon backstories of all these characters. Because Once Upon a Time is made by ABC, ABC is owned by Disney, therefore Once Upon a Time is canon for Disney. Question number 6 is a villain that you would erase from literature and or history. Now, I personally would never erase any villain from history because the butterfly effect, too scary. I cannot deal with that. If I were, like, say, Hitler was a really bad guy, right? But what if I erase Hitler and then something else even worse happens? That wouldn't be great. So I'm not toying with the past. But for literature, I am going with The Nothing from The Neverending Story by Michael Ende.
What is the nothing?
It's the emptiness that's left. It is like a despair, destroying this world.
The Neverending Story is a story that I grew up with since I was a kid. Ever since I knew where the video cassettes were, I would be like, can I watch this please, Mom? I would totally erase The Nothing from existence forever, because the whole idea of The Neverending Story is that Bastian Books needs to save Fantasia from the Nothing. The Nothing is created by the fact that people don't have that much imagination anymore. So the land of stories, Fantasia, is crumbling and dying. The whole idea of it is terrifying to me, so that's the villain I would get rid of. Question number 7 is who or what has been the greatest villain in your life? This isn't gonna be very cheerful. I definitely have some people in my life who have played major villain roles in my story, but I'm not gonna name any names because I don't know if any of these people maybe watch my videos, and I don't wanna call people out because I'm a coward. There are a lot of people in my life who have played a villain role, and as for things that have played a villain role, I would obviously have to go with my brain and my mental health that has not been the greatest. Question number 8 is which villain would you want to read about or see have their own movie? And for me, that's gonna be the bad guys from The Quest of Ewilan by Pierre Bottero. Mostly because I just really want this series to get more attention so that they will maybe eventually actually translate it to English so that I can recommend it to people. Question number 9 is which of your favorite BookTube villains do you tag? Now, I actually put up a tweet asking for people to like it if they wanted to get tagged in the video. So if I do tags in the future and you would like to be tagged, make sure to follow me on Twitter so that you can like those tweets. So here are the people that I am tagging today. I am tagging Saffi from Bookworm Saffi and Joules from Page by Page. Anyhow, I really hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you again next Wednesday. Bye!